It is Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. I'm going to call the meeting of the City Council to order. Clerk Everett, will you please call the roll?
Councilperson Huckabee. Here. Councilperson Johnson.
Here.
Councilperson Lesko here.
Here.
Councilperson Schultz.
Here.
President Jacob.
Here. Item 3, public hearings. Tonight we have none. Item 4, public comment. The City Council will receive comments from city residents. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per individual. Anyone wishing to speak is required to sign up in advance or state the following items for the record when called upon: name, address, subject matter, and contact information. No action will be taken on any public comments unless item is also elsewhere on the agenda. Note for those of you on Zoom, if anyone wishes to speak during the public comment period, please raise your virtual hand through Zoom, as the chat box is not monitored during the meeting, and those who are on the call must remain muted unless recognized to speak. Tonight we have no one signed up in person. I'll take a first call for those on Zoom. Second call for those on Zoom. Seeing none, we will move on. Item 5, consent agenda. The consent agenda is outlined below and is hereby presented for action by the City Council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda as on the request of any one council member. Items not removed may be adopted by one action without debate. Removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the council president.
I move to approve the consent agenda as listed, items 5A through 5K.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further debate? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, petitions, requests, and communications. 6A is review and possible action relating to the proclamation for National Public Works Week, May 18th through the 24th, 2025, in the city of Fort Atkinson. Manager Hausman.
Thank you. National Public Works Week is observed during the third full week of May to recognize the importance of public works in an organized society. This year, it takes place from May 18th to the 24th, and the observation sheds light on the brave and essential role that public works employees play in our society. This year, we will be doing a Public Works lunch tomorrow to celebrate our team. And we have Public Works Superintendent Tom Williamson here to accept this. And staff does recommend that the council approve the proclamation recognizing Public Works Week, May 18th through 24th, 2025.
I move to approve the proclamation recognizing National Public Works Week, May 18th through 24th, 2025, in the city of Fort Atkinson.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6B, review and possible action relating to the proclamation declaring May 22nd, 2025 as Wastewater Professionals Appreciation Day. Manager Hausman again.
Thank you. Wastewater Professionals Day in the state of Wisconsin is celebrated on May 22nd of each year. It's an opportunity to acknowledge and celebrate the critical contributions made by individuals who work at the city's wastewater treatment plant. Tonight, we have Trevor Roulette, who is the foreperson for the wastewater treatment plant here. And we plan to celebrate with a pizza party when Erin Sweeney, who is the wastewater superintendent, returns from vacation. She apparently thinks she gets Wastewater Professionals Day off on vacation, but it's a good way to celebrate it. So staff does recommend that the City Council approve the proclamation declaring May 22nd, 2025 as Wastewater Professionals Day in the city of Fort Atkinson.
I move to approve the proclamation declaring May 22nd, 2025 as Wastewater Professionals Appreciation Day.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further debate? Being none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6C, presentation of the City of Fort Atkinson financial statements and supplemental information for the year ending December 31st, 2024. Andrea Jansen, CPA CFE partner at Baker Tilly US. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me. My name is Andrea Jansen. I'm principal at Baker Tilly. I'm in charge of the city's audit. And so for purposes of this meeting, we'll look at the numbers in the 2024 financial highlights that I handed out today. But before we get into the numbers, just a couple high-level comments on the formal audit reports. So the first one being the largest report, your financial statements. At the front of this report is the independent auditor's report, so otherwise known as the opinion. A couple comments here. Similar to prior years, we issued an adverse opinion on the discretely presented component unit that's essentially not presented in these financial statements. So the Fort Atkinson Historical Society meets the criteria to be a component unit of the city. But because they are not audited, we can't pull those numbers into here. So that is an explanation for that. But the rest of the report, the information that is contained here, we issued an unmodified opinion, otherwise known as a clean opinion, and that's the highest level of assurance we're able to give. One other note, in this year's opinion, on the top of the second page, we have an emphasis of matter for change in presentation of funds. So because of the activity in TIF number 9 and the capital projects fund this year, it increased. Those were brought essentially from the back of the report up into the front as major funds this year. So nothing is wrong there or concerning. It's just to alert you that that is a change if you were to look at these statements compared to last year. So that's a new GASB standard wanting to highlight some of those differences. The other formal audit report that we issue is the reporting and insights document. That one is made up largely of required communication. So if you're familiar with this document, it's going to look very similar to prior years. If you're less familiar with this document, I would encourage you to take a look through it. It explains certain concepts related to the audit, certain areas where we may focus more attention. And a couple of items that I will highlight or just remind you of, starting with page 6 in the internal control matters section. We do issue a material weakness over financial statement close process, including the financial reporting. That is very, very common for municipalities of your size, municipalities of your staff size. Because we prepare the financial statements on your behalf and we identify journal entries in the process. So, you would likely need to hire additional staffing in order to overcome this. We're not suggesting that you do that. It's just something that we're required to report to you. And sort of along with that, the material journal entries that we find during the audit are listed on page 23 of the report. And if I were to sort of bucket these entries, I would say these all to me are year-end reporting type entries, so not related to the day-to-day operations of the city. So just something to keep in mind as you kind of look through those and understand kind of what it is that we're adjusting. And so moving into the 2024 financial highlights, the first graph in this handout covers the general fund balance. So as a reminder, your general fund is your primary operating fund of the city. And when we're talking about fund balance, we're talking about equity. So in simplified terms, what's left over when you take your assets minus your liabilities. And I like to start actually at the bottom of that top chart with your non-spendable fund balance. So very similar to last year, about $2.8 million in this category, largely made up of advances to TIF districts and other funds, and also about 870,000 roughly of land held for resale. So just as it sounds, you can't use those assets to pay your bills. So they are tied up in non-spendable. Assigned fund balance of about 1.2 million. This is detailed on page 45 of the financial statements, but essentially it's been earmarked for specific purposes by the council. And then your unassigned category, about 6.1 million at the end of the year. I'll talk a little bit more about this on the next page, but essentially those are your reserves. Those have not been earmarked for any specific purpose. You could choose to spend those as you need. So that brings you to a total fund balance of about 10.1 million, an increase over the prior year. And below the chart, we've got a summarized income statement. Here, I like to start in the middle. Your final budget, what you had planned for the year, was a net loss of about 289,000. Your actual results, a net income of about 2.6 million. So the variances, you can look at the details starting on page 60 of your financial statements. But on the revenue side, there were some transfers in that weren't budgeted for, some debt issued, and investment income was higher than you had planned. And then on the expenditure sides, savings in multiple categories there. So moving on to page 2, here we are taking that $6.1 million that's not earmarked for specific purposes, and we are comparing that to your general fund expenditures and coming up with a percentage of 60.6. So we've also got your policy range of 15 to 30% laid out there in the blue and black lines. You can see in each of the last 5 years, you've been above your policy range, but we've also included some peer metrics there in blue. So with the exception of 2024, you're really right in line with your peer communities in terms of where your reserves are at. So, no real concerns with kind of this 1-year blip. Though if I were you, I probably would take a look at either considering assigning some more balances, so you kind of reduce that unassigned balance, so you could earmark more things for kind of the future, or you might want to revisit your policy if you feel like that range no longer kind of suits where you think you should be at.
Can I ask a question quick? What do you consider our peers?
So this is client data of Baker Tilly in Wisconsin municipalities between 10,000 and 17,500 in population.
Oh, I see the note down in there, but it just.
So moving on to page 3, we are switching gears here and talking about general obligation debt. So as a reminder, there's a state statutory limit, which is mapped out in that black line in the chart, 5% of your equalized value. The city has a policy that further limits that, so you shouldn't exceed 60% of your city's legal debt limit. The calculation on that for the end of 2024 was about 42.6 million. So you are within the state statutory debt limits. You are within your policy limit. Obviously, there's an increase between 2023 and 2024 due to, your large planned borrowing that you had this year. Below the chart, just a reminder that you've got sort of several different categories of debt. The chart only considers your general obligation debt. Part of that's related to your city funds. Part of that is related to your utility funds. Your utility funds also have about $12.7 million in revenue debt to be paid solely on utility revenues, not with tax levy dollars. And then TIF 9 also has $3.5 million in note anticipation notes. So that will be refunded or repaid with a future borrowing. And if you are into data, there's a link at the bottom of this page that would take you to the Wisconsin Policy Forum that has all kinds of different ways that you can compare against other municipalities in Wisconsin. Page 4, we are still talking about debt. We are talking about your governmental funds and the principal and interest that you're spending on debt compared to your non-capital expenditures. So we pull out the capital expenditures because that kind of makes your calculations swing all over the place. And for purposes of this year, we've also excluded the current refundings. So you issued some debt, you repaid the debt, and you got new debt. So that has been excluded from the calculation. When I look at that red line, I would say over the last 5 years, you're very stable in what you're spending on debt, which is stable is good news. And then again, here on this side, we are below peer metrics, so spending less than what other similar sized communities are spending. Moving on to the water utility. As a reminder, your rates are set by the Public Service Commission or approved by Public Service Commission of Wisconsin for the water utility. Your operating results are mapped out here. Really strong operating results for this year, kind of continuing the trend since 2022. Current year operating income of about 1.5 million. We also like to look at unrestricted cash reserves. You've got about 7 months worth of cash reserves or about $1.8 million. So that is a positive metric. And then lastly, we also like to look at the investment in capital because your utility funds have heavy investments in your plant. You are 87% funded with equity and 13% debt funded. So this is a really healthy ratio, no concerns here. So similar information presented for the sewer utility, though this utility is not regulated. You've got a much closer margin in this fund with about 200,000 in operating income for the year, but still positive operating results. You've got healthy cash reserves at about $3.4 million in this fund. And your investment in capital on in this fund, certainly heavier debt funded, but that was planned with your very, very large plant upgrade. So obviously that's not a annual project that you continue to do. So I kind of feel like we're at the top of that and we'll be moving towards more equity funding as that debt gets repaid. And then lastly, your stormwater utility, good news in this fund. Between 23 and 24, we are back on track with about 140,000 in operating income. So you can see there was a operating loss in the prior year and you were about break even in 2022. So that is positive news. You've got about 7 months of unrestricted cash reserves and your equity versus debt ratio in capital looks healthy to me. So I will open it up for questions, but just want to take a moment to say thank you to Michelle and team. Certainly we know all of the effort that goes into audit preparation and responding to questions and providing us information, and just so appreciate all the effort that you put in along with your team. And so we're even here presenting a little earlier than normal. So things went smoothly from our perspective. Happy to answer any questions.
Really don't have any questions other than like I was just taking a few notes of things that I heard. And so the clean opinion, stable, good news, strong water operating results and healthy reserves in the sewer utility, like all paints a pretty good solid picture.
Yep, I would agree with that. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to item 7, resolutions and ordinances. Tonight we have none. Item 8, reports of officers, boards, and committees. 8A is city manager's report.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome and introduce Zach Navin to the City Council and to the public tonight. He is our new Public Works Director. He started Monday, the 12th, which means he's come back for another week already. Zach comes to us from the Waukesha County Parks Department and has previous experience as a Public Works Director in Columbus. And we're just very excited to add Zach to our team. He's hit the ground running already. On May 7th, Councilmember Huckabee, Chief Peterson, Clerk Ebert, and I attended the Capital Connections Day with the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. We met with our legislators and those in the surrounding area to advocate for legislation surrounding local control, economic development, TIF changes, housing, EMS, and infrastructure. On May 9th, I attended the Jefferson County Local Government Officials Meeting in Jefferson. This group includes representatives from cities and villages in Jefferson County. We meet every other month or so to connect our communities and share ideas. On May 12th, Chief Peterson and I met with our town partners for an initial meeting to discuss our new fire and EMS service contracts with our town partners in Koshkonong, Hebron, Jefferson, Oakland, and Sumner. We set expectations and established a working group to negotiate a long-term stable contract for services. On May 13th and 14th, many members of the city staff attended crisis intervention partner training. Staff reported that it was very useful in providing strategies and resources to those experiencing mental health crises in our public buildings and in general in our lives. So I want to thank the museum for hosting, and thank you to Chief Bump for organizing, and thank you to NAMI for providing that training. On May 13th, the Plan Commission held a public meeting to review the draft recommendations from the city's planning consultants relating to the Janesville Avenue and Main Street corridor plans. The meeting was well attended and staff received some useful feedback. The council will hear the final presentation at the meeting on June 3rd. Also on May 14th, I attended a Conversations with Thrive ED event in Lake Mills. Zach and Jed joined me, and we were able to introduce Zach to some of the folks around the county as well as business owners and developers. Over the weekend, the Main Street Dance Studio recital themed Alice in Wonderland and Wicked was held at UW Whitewater Young Auditorium. There were 800 attendees at the 3 to 6-year-old recital and 900 attendees for the 7 and older recital on Sunday, for a total of 1,700 people who enjoyed the shows, and that is put on by our Parks and Recreation Department. Some additional fun facts that Ben Dayton provided me, and I couldn't help myself but repeat them. 490 costumes were worn. There were 320 dancers, 230 unique dancers, and 89 dads or father figures danced with their daughters in our Daddies and Dancers program. One of the few in the Midwest that does this and has been very successful. Senior Jenna Gibbs received the Megan Dalby Roxanne Hunt Scholarship, and the program is successful thanks to the hard work of our very own Brett Ketterman, the recreation supervisor, and the 20 volunteers and staff members, most of whom are former dancers in the program. So it's really something we celebrate every year. It's a really great program. They work really hard for many, many months to put that on. On Friday, May 16th, members of the Fort Atkinson Police Department and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department were part of the Cops on a Rooftop at Dunkin' Donuts in Fort Atkinson, a fundraiser for Special Olympics of Wisconsin. Members of the Special Olympics team from St. Coletta stopped to help collections, and the special guest of the day was K9 Moose Tracks, who was there to meet fans, pose for photos, say hello, and support a great cause. So thank you to everybody who participated in that. Devout Real Estate Group held a panel discussion today at their new office in downtown Fort Atkinson. I was pleased to participate in the discussion about housing and supportive development alongside leaders from Milton, Jefferson, and Whitewater. Prior to this meeting, we held the last new council orientation session. We discussed budget, debt, financial policies. The audit came up, so it was very on point to receive the audit presentation tonight. Congratulations to Parks and Recreation Director Ben Dayton and Utility Billing Specialist Karen Rose on their graduation from Project Lead tomorrow. I look forward to hearing more about their final project and seeing the graduation ceremony tomorrow morning at Jones Dairy Farm. Finally, we have a Thrive ED JCEDC Executive Committee on May 22nd in Jefferson that I will attend as the chair of the JCEDC Jefferson County Economic Development Consortium Board. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9, unfinished business. Tonight we have none. Item 10 is new business. 10A is review and possible action on relating to the library server replacement project with Ignitect at a cost not to exceed $10,634.50 from the 2025 CIP. Library Director Lippert.
Hello. Yes, so library staff identified the need for a replacement server at the library. Our server was last replaced in 2018 by Taylor Computer Services, and in talking to several tech companies, they recommended replacing the server between every 5 and 10 years. So we're right where we should be considering replacing the server project. We wanted to work with a company that is familiar with installing servers in a library environment. So I reached out to neighboring libraries and asked which companies they had worked with to do similar projects. And after talking to them, I learned that 3 area libraries had worked with Taylor Computer Services, and one local library had worked with Ignitec. Ignitec currently provides our monthly tech service at the library, and Taylor Computer Services replaced our server back in 2018. So based on that information, I reached out to both of those companies and asked for proposals. The proposals came back. At the end of the day, Ignitec's cost estimate comes to $10,000, $634.50, and Taylor Computer Services quote came at $13,000 plus additional for licenses. We wouldn't need to pay for labor from Ignitec because we already have banked labor hours that we could utilize for this project, which would save us a lot of money for this project, which is wonderful. The library budgeted $14,000 in our CIP budget for 2025. So both of those quotes come in under the budgeted amount. We brought this proposal to the library board on May 12th, and the library board approved moving forward with the project. And they also approved using the library's trust fund to reimburse the city for the project. By state statute, the library board is exclusively in control of a library fund once it's been allocated to the library fund. But I'm bringing it in front of you today to follow policies in the financial stability guidebook. So we would recommend approving the server replacement project from Ignitec at a cost not to exceed $10,634.50 as outlined in the 2025 CIP. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I move to approve the library server replacement project with Ignitec at a cost not to exceed $10,634.50 as outlined in the 2025 CIP.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further debate or questions? Seeing none. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. 10B is review and possible action relating to an invoice from We Energies for gas installation at Ridgeview Estates. Manager Hausman.
Thank you. Let me get to my memo, excuse me. The city of Fort Atkinson and Intrepid Investments, which is the developer, entered into a development agreement in 2024 for the development of 35 acres of the city-owned land along Baker Road. Within that agreement, we have the roles and responsibilities and financial obligations of each party. One of the designated public improvements for which the city is responsible are the gas and electric facility installation to serve the subdivision. The development agreement is in your council packet for review as well. And then back in November, the City Council approved the Ridgeview Estates road construction budget and awarded the contract to Forest Landscaping for just over $4 million. That memo and that information is also attached for council's reference. The other costs included in that estimate were for We Energies to provide gas and electric service to the subdivision. So the estimate provided by We at the time for gas was $75,000, with the understanding that the city will receive credits from service connections for all the buildings constructed. The invoice from We Energies for the total cost of the gas installation for this project is $71,708.35. It is noted that additional charges may apply if they encounter unusual conditions or if there's delays. The amount of connection for each connection charge will be about $4,091. but we cannot be reimbursed more than the total cost of the invoice. So the gas will likely mostly be reimbursed through this project. So the city does intend to use funds from TID 9 to make that initial infrastructure payment, and then those customer connection refunds will be returned to TID 9. And staff recommends that the city council approve the invoice from We Energies for the gas installation at Ridgeview Estates in the amount of $71,708.35 per the approved development agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I move to approve the invoice from We Energies for gas installation at the Ridgeview Estates subdivision in the amount of $71,708.35 per the approved development agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further debate? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10C, review and possible action relating to an invoice from We Energies for electric facilities installation at Ridgeview Estates. Manager Houseman.
Thank you. So this is the other part of that. We did, the city in the development agreement committed to providing gas and electric service to the subdivision, the Ridgeview Estates subdivision. The estimate provided back in November for this facility installation was about $250,000. The actual cost per the invoice from We Energies is $260,603.21. The rebate for this is a little bit less at $1,757 per unit, or per meter, I should say, not necessarily per unit. So it is likely that the city will not recoup 100% of the funds to bring electricity to this subdivision. However, it is something that the city committed to within the development agreement, and in order to build houses and other structures, they need electrical service. So it was anticipated as part of this project cost. Again, we would use funds from TID 9 to make that initial infrastructure payment, and then those customer connection refund payments would be returned to TID 9. So staff does recommend that the city council approve payment of the invoice from We Energies for the electrical installation at Ridgeview Estates subdivision in the amount of $260,603.21 per the approved development agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have just more of a curiosity. When are they starting? Once this is, if it's approved, when are they starting the?
When are they starting the gas and electric installation? Probably within the next couple of weeks. We
Okay.
have a on-site dry utilities meeting later this week where we will talk to them, and they will be very pleased to get their check, because they don't do any work until they get their check.
Yeah.
Is there any bigger bonus back for like the multifamily complex?
I did inquire with We Energies what we could potentially expect for both gas and electric from the multifamily. And I didn't get a very clear answer. I think it varies depending on how much electric infrastructure the developer has to put in to serve the 86 unit apartment building. So they would actually, the infrastructure that they're responsible for putting in would be part of this rebate. So then they would get a rebate from customers. And then if there's additional rebate after that, then we would get that rebate. But I don't have a specific dollar amount that we can expect from the multifamily piece.
Other questions?
I move to approve the invoice from We Energies for electric facilities installation at the Ridgeview Estates subdivision in the amount of $260,603.21 per the approved development agreement.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any other debate? Seeing none, motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10D, review and possible action relating to the purchase of dispatch radio terminal for the police department. Police Captain Lindsay.
I'm ready now. And I believe I've met everybody, but you're used to seeing Chief Bump. I'm Captain Lindsay with the Police Department. And I am here today because we are in need of purchasing a new dispatch radio terminal. Our current machine has exceeded its end of life estimate, which is about 5 to 7 years. This past February, we had to reboot the system and discovered that it was installed approximately in 2009. So we have well exceeded our end of life estimate. And because of that concern, we invited GenCom in to come take a look at the unit, and they confirmed that we were definitely on borrowed time with the unit that's in place right now. So the total quote for the project is $17,041. That covers the purchase and installation of the new terminal. The dispatch radio terminal is absolutely essential to our operations. It allows communications through the police department, fire, EMS, public works, and the sheriff's department when that's appropriate. The system also controls a lot of different security access points throughout the entire police department. We didn't test any other products. GenCom is our sole provider for our radio communications platform throughout the police department. In addition, the upgrading this system to the most current version should seamlessly integrate with the current equipment that we have and citywide. Additionally, we don't have any competitive or comparison quotes, and that it complies with the purchasing policy guidelines outlined in the Financial Stability Guidebook, specifically section 1.9 sub 3. GenCom is our sole provider for our platform. And again, the items quoted are for our existing, to become the most current version of our existing system that's in place now that is at end of life. So the funds to purchase our new system are luckily from 2025 budgeted funds. These funds were originally in position for the new 911 hosted system that we were going to be going to in the fall of 2024, but we had some bad luck and AT&T pushed that out until spring of 2025 and now to the fall of 2025. So because those items were already, the project was already budgeted, those funds have all remained unspent and are sitting there. And luckily, that bad luck has created a silver lining that we have the funds just sitting there now to cover this absolute necessity that unfortunately crept up on us. And the other thing that I would highlight is that those budgeted funds from that 911 system project and this radio communications project for the dispatch radio terminal are all coming from the same account within the police department, the 5211-900 account. So those are funds that are already existing that were accounted for this year. So the items that we are requesting purchase for that were quoted in the memo that everyone received was the audio equipment that comes with this, the desktop as well as the operating systems, as well as the flat panel touchscreen monitor that if any of you have been in dispatch have seen the dispatchers, it's integral to their operations throughout the day. And that quote came in at $17,041. So I would like to move forward with and obtain final approval from the City Council to execute the order for the dispatch radio terminal not to exceed the quoted amount of $17,041. And if approved, I would place the order tomorrow to avoid any unnecessary price increases. So I'd be happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
More of a question of curiosity, but would there be any expected gap in service during the installation?
There shouldn't be. The existing terminal should stay in operation until the other one goes live.
Yeah.
And then when equipment like this goes down and if you are not able to reboot it, does what happens then?
Well, we would have to flip the key and get onto the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department's frequency. We do that on occasion for sometimes scheduled maintenance and things like that. But we do our best not to do that and try to keep all our communication in-house because our dispatchers provide such a positive and vital service to the citizens that live here.
I move to approve the purchase and installation of the dispatch radio terminal from GenCom in an amount not to exceed $17,041.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now get it ordered. No.
Item 11, miscellaneous, we have none. Number 12, claims, appropriations, and contract payments. 12A is review and possible action relating to the verified claims as presented by the Director of Finance and authorized payment. Clerk Everett.
Thank you. As required, I sent them out on Monday afternoon, the verified claims, and also with this month would have been the financials, which you had approved in your consent agenda. As always, if there's any questions with verified claims, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, we would look for approval.
I move to approve the verified claims as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. This is any discussion? This is a roll call vote.
Council Huckabee,
Aye.
Council Johnson,
Aye.
Council Lesko,
Aye.
Council Schultz,
Aye.
President Jekyll.
Aye, motion carries. Item 13, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any debate? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.